This is Jill Finley at Jillily Studio. Welcome to week number 1 of the Petal Patch Sew-Along. We're going to start with our quilt right here. We're going to start with these blocks on our quilt, the daisy block. So there's 4 of them here and 2 more here, so you're going to be making 6. I'm just going to demonstrate 1 and then you can make 5 more. Just a little bit about the pattern. Let me just tell you a little bit about it. The pattern is in color so that you can identify the different fabrics that we're using throughout the quilt. It starts with some general instruction on the basic techniques. There's a little section on corner triangles, one on flying geese and half square triangles, and then applique. And that's for your reference. I'm going to be teaching you all of this as we go along. So we're not going to refer to that right now. We'll start on the bottom of page 2. Week 1, construction of the daisy block. So to start off, I have my pieces cut. At the top of each week's block, there's a list of the fabrics and the sizes that you will need for that week. Instead of giving you a whole big cutting list with everything for the whole quilt, I decided to keep it week to week. That way it's easy to identify which pieces you need to pull out. You can certainly cut everything at once if you want. Just flip through week 1, week 2, week 3, like that. Okay, so for today, we just needed these little pieces here. And we're going to start with the center of the block, and that's this 4.5-inch square. Some of them use the plaid that I'm using today, and some of them use the other green, which is a green little scene print, and it's a lighter one. I've used that in these 2 blocks here. So it doesn't matter how you put these together, as long as you have the same color of petals all the way around the center block. So today I'm using red number 1 and the plaid in my sample. So I have 6 of these 2.5-inch squares. I'm going to use 4 of them as corner triangles on my center square, which is the green square. And I'm going to place the smaller red square on the center square and sew from corner to corner. You can draw a diagonal line if that's a helpful guide to you. I use the guide on my machine, but you just make sure that your edges are lined up. And this is a corner triangle. I'm watching the edge of this on the guide, the edge of that corner of that red square, and that will guide me to go just straight down that center. I don't know if you can see that stitching there. So now this corner will flip open and replace the green corner. But before I go to trim it, I'm going to do the one on the opposite corner. Don't do the adjacent corner, do the one opposite, and sew again. Now I'm going to trim off the seam allowance. I'm giving myself about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, trimming off that extra triangle and this extra triangle on this side. Okay, now it's important that I press these open before I add the next squares. So I'm going to take it to my ironing surface and press that outward with the seam allowance going toward the red square. Now, if you want to make all 6 of your blocks at once, you do this same step on each one of your centers. Add those, and you can chain these items through, or you can just make 1 block at a time, whatever you prefer. All right, the next thing is we're going to do corner triangles on these white rectangles. And I have here a white rectangle that's 2.5 by 4.5, and then I have 2 that are 2.5 by 6.5. I'm going to follow the pattern, and it's important which corner that you put it on. So just lay it out just exactly like that. Here's the 4.5 one right here, and I want this corner triangle to go on this upper corner in the northeast. That's the way I think of it with directions. That's in the northeast. I'm going to make 2 of these, sewing from corner to corner, and flip that up. Okay, I've trimmed that seam allowance. I'm going to press this also with the seam allowance toward the colored square. For the 6.5-inch rectangles, that's this, I need these corner triangles to be in the southeast. So they need to go on this bottom corner. So I'm going to sew 2 of those. Once again, we're going to trim and press with that seam open towards the color. Okay, now this is how the block is going to go together. On each side, you'll turn these rectangles so that you have the corner of color going opposite the ones that are in the center. And then these guys, the long ones, will live right there. And we have 2-inch squares that go on the ends of these 6.5-inch rectangles. So we'll sew it in rows. I'm going to start with this row. Now I'm picking up my center row. I've got this rectangle that goes on the side of the center square, and I'll sew that to one side of it. This has one more rectangle on the other side, so I'll open that up and put this right here. Make sure you don't put it on like that, or you'll give your seam ripper a little workout. We've all made those mistakes before, right? Okay, and the last row has this little 2.5-inch square to the side of this rectangle. So this is how the rows are. They're not pressed yet. I'm going to press this seam in the center with these rectangles on the sides of it out. So I'm pressing that seam with that going out. And the same on this one. Okay, and that means that this seam actually goes this way. I will press toward this big rectangle so that these seams will be offset. And you can do the opposite. It's just that you want the seams to not be sitting on top of each other. This way they will nest together. So I've got a seam here and a seam over here instead of having them sit on top of each other. And that way it just goes together so much easier. So this one's going this way, so this one will go this way. Nesting your seams together is a really important thing to do. All right, now I'm going to sew the rows together. Now just a note here, I don't use pins. A lot of people love to pin, and you're totally welcome to pin. If you're a pinner, pin away. I just like to go as far as I need to go and hold it with my fingers until I meet the next area where it has to meet. So you can see that these met perfectly right there, and these seams right here where the 2 triangles meet is perfect as well. So let's sew the next one on. This one is going to go here. So I think I'm going to do it this way. Then I can come to the seam where they meet, where they're nested together first. And I can just feel it when I'm holding those together, that the seams are nested together. I'm going to go across that seam and then check to make sure everything else is lined up, and then continue stitching. Let's just check it. That looks perfect. That looks perfect. All right, that's done. Now I'm going to add a little bit of steam. As I press this, take the extra threads out. You can press this final seam any way you want. Doesn't really matter. It should be 8.5 inches right now. You can see on my board, I've got a perfect 8.5 inches. 8.5 inches. So it will finish at 8 inches. You're going to make 6 of these daisies, and that's all you need to do for week 1. This block is finished, and in the pattern, it has you place these together in a row with them all going the same direction, but we sewed them together wrong. Just, you can do it any way you want. So you can do them all in the same direction, or you can rotate them, whatever. Now, when these meet together, you will have seams that come together right here. And so you might want to think about which way you've pressed that seam from the center. So these blocks, as I do them, I'll probably press this seam in toward the center so that they'll fit together nicely. All right, so that is the stretch star block, or the daisy. So join me next week for week 2. We'll be doing the sunflower block. We only have 3 blocks to do next week. They have a little bit more piecing, and there's a couple other skills I want to teach you. So come back next week, get your pieces cut, and be ready to go. See you later. Bye-bye.